So welcome to Chapter 8 of Engage and Grow. Having this amazing panel here talking about everything. The engagement start is where we go from getting the good behaviors, because of course, unify and align, we got to get rid of the negative behaviors, right, and we got to build the good behaviors. But now engagement is about taking those good behaviors and turning them into high performance individuals. High performance is something that, what's the reason for doing all this other than to perform better as a team and create better results out there in the marketplace? Now, this brings in and of itself its own challenges into building that. Rich, take us through some of the challenges when we move from good behavior to high performance.
Well, you're always going to get some level of pushback, and so that needs to be treated sensitively, but you need to do it in a way that when you create an internal movement within an organisation, everyone sees the disengagement coming out, which takes pressure off the business leaders again. So when you create that environment, because you've gone through the alignment, you've gone through the buy-in, now we're heading in the right direction. Now we're heading to a high-performance team. So usually you would have got rid of one or two by then. Yeah. So now it's all choice. And this is where companies, we've seen remarkable stories come out in a short amount of time.
Everyone in the company starts to become a believer in the company and starts to become, they're almost become business development managers at every level, and all sorts of things start to happen when we go high performance. Mike, you've got some great questions for high performance that I think are really important for us to embellish on and learn from.
Well, when you think about this whole idea of engagement, it's one of those questions that comes up when people will often get into not only blaming each other, they'll also kind of blame the external environment in terms of the engagement, right? It's the economy, it's this regulator, it's Washington, it's my state, it's you fill in the blank.
It's my mother-in-law,
right,
it's everybody.
And you know what? That's okay. That's probably true. But what can we do about those things?
Yeah.
We need to be behaving around the focused performance we can have on stuff we can actually control and actually work on. And so Peter Drucker, who's really the father of management science at Marshall knew, and I had a brief time to speak with him when I was writing my first book. And I realized that we needed to do some research about how is it that people can start to look inwardly and think about the characteristics that allow you to perform well in any economic environment. So you think about the financial crisis, you think about any downturn, maybe the regulations go against you. What would be factors that could make you profitable and successful if you engaged your workforce to move in this direction? And we came up with a list of 7, which are an extension of what Peter Drucker talked about. But these 7 questions came up and were revealed, and we could be happy to provide more detail on this. Brian Tracy wrote about this with me in Now Build a Great Business, how to do better in any market environment. And the first question is really this inward question we've been dealing with for this entire session, and that is, as a leader, what are the results really expected of you, and do your people, what do they need from you as a leader to improve, to be able to contribute their best work at the company? This is at the core of all the assessment and feedback that we've been talking about in this session. What's the plan? What's the plan to engage the rest of the team in the weeks and months to come to use the tools we've talked about today? They don't work if we don't apply them. It's amazing how those diet plans
and if we don't plan it, doesn't happen.
And if we don't plan it, so what we need to do is not decide that this is something over here, this behavior change or this activity. Let's bake it in. We call it operationalizing into the business plan. How can we bake this into the plan, and how will you do that so that you have to show results? Put that point on the board. The team. How are we going to empower the team to actually attract the right people to this cause? How are we going to have them be our primary recruiters? How can we make sure that they go out and make it happen for us so that they want to be able to be a part of this shared level of engagement? Fourth is product. What are you really great at building as a company? What are we really good at? Jim Collins also talked about this when we were writing Success Built to Last. He said we should not try to be great at everything. We need to be great at those things so we can really make a difference in the world and for each other. What are we great at, and make sure the product attracts those qualities. Fifth is marketing. What's your competitive advantage? We haven't talked much here about how to differentiate yourself as an individual executive or differentiate yourself as a company. You ought to ask the question when you're thinking about marketing, think about the way when we engage our workforce and we are engaging our customers, that those are aligned and bringing that together. In terms of sales, this is the 6th question. Why do the people who choose to part with their hard-earned money decide to give us that money? Why are they investing in us? And are we as a team delivering for that outcome? Are we?
I think it's just such simple questions, but if they're not asked and asked regularly, it doesn't happen. We can't go high performance if we don't ask these questions on a regular basis.
Exactly. I think we all assume we all agree on the answer. And once again, I just invite the team to test themselves. I wouldn't ask the questions if it weren't for the fact that they're almost always somehow out of alignment. And then the final principle really has to do with this idea of realizing that when you come to work, you're creating an experience. You have an ecosystem. We've talked about how there's zero tolerance when Alan talks about how you will not exhibit these behaviors, you will exhibit these.
Yeah.
Think about a employee experience as an experience. What's it like to work here? How do we interact with each other? How do we actually show each and every day with consistently?
Yeah.
Just as we do with the customer experience, what is that overall entire employee experience? Because that is the key to attracting talent to an engaged organization. And those engaged organizations will 10x any of the competitors.
You look at all of that, Mark, and I think it's vital to understand that all of these things lead to high performance if they're done regularly.
Yes.
Right.
You have to be firing on all cylinders.
There's no two ways about it. But there's also an ability to win. And I go back to sport again. You see some teams that just do not have the ability to win. They don't have a winning culture. They don't have that. Rich, give me a bit more on the winning culture. Then I want to come back to you because Drucker had some great things on this as well.
Well, there's a story of, we worked with a restaurant chain in the UK, 500 employees. We worked with their sales and marketing team. Once we got them to the engaged level, right, then we started we said, who's the most important person that we need to engage with? And they said the chefs, the restaurant owners, the managers.
Sense.
Okay, and quite simply, then off you go, build relationships, get out there and engage. And so what happened was, in a very short amount of time, the restaurant managers, the chefs, everyone was starting to become that type of family. That where the energy was flowing, the conversations were high, they knew each other on a one-to-one basis, sales went through the roof. 34% at the busiest time of the year in Q4 of 2016 that they hadn't had for the last couple of years, and their engagement score went from 0% to something like 65%. Purely by engaging people.
So just by getting them to communicate with each other, we can create more of a winning culture. We see this on some teams when they just don't know how to win. They know how to lose in that last minute. They can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And I think that part of this whole engagement is getting them, because they've had those small wins at buy-in. They've seen some of the negative people removed from the organization. They've seen that happen. They're coming together in alignment and they feel like they're on a roll. They feel that difference in the engagement, and they feel like winning is now a part of what we can do. Teach me more, Marshall, because you guys have you and Drucker had some brilliant stuff on this.
Well, I'd say he had some brilliant stuff, which I was happily sitting there learning, so I can't really take credit for his brilliant stuff too much. He taught me so many lessons. Another great lesson back to this high performance is our mission in life is to make a positive difference. Our mission in life is to focus on high performance, not to prove we're smart and not to prove we're right. We get so lost in proving how smart we are and right we are. That's not what we're here for. We're here to make a positive difference. We're here to focus on high performance. He also taught me another lesson. Every decision in life is made by the person who has the power to make the decision. Make peace with that. Not the smartest person, a right person, a fair person, or a good person. Whoever has the power to make the decision will make the decision. Then he taught me another lesson. If I need to influence you, and you have the power to make the decision, one word to describe you, customer. One word to describe me, salesperson. You don't have to buy. I have to sell. You don't have to buy. The other lesson, back to high performance, sell what you can sell. Change what you can change, and don't waste your time and energy on what you're not going to sell or change. One question, if everyone listening just understands this one question,
Give it straight to him, Marshall.
it's going to really focus on high performance. That is this: before you deal with any topic, am I willing at this time to make the investment required to make a positive difference on this topic? Am I willing at this time to make the investment required to make a positive difference on this? The answer is yes, go for it. The answer is no, take a deep breath and let it go. Don't waste your time and energy on things that are not going to lead to high performance. Laser focus that time and energy. Will this lead to high performance? Am I willing to make the investment? Yes, go for it. No, take a deep breath. Let it go. Let it go.
So, building a high performance organization, it takes all of those steps to build we can't just get there by going straight to engage. We
Right.
actually have to evaluate,
Right.
start with the buy-in,
Right.
get the team unified by removing some of the negatives that'll at buyout type thing.
Right.
Really get them moving into alignment, and now we go for those high performance strategies that we can do. A lot of these strategies, you've probably tried them in the past, and this is something I want us to touch on. It's things you tried in the past that didn't work, and the reason they didn't work is not because they were a bad strategy, is because no one cared. No one was actually buying in. So team, when we look at this building of a high performance team, there's so many things about that winning culture and all of this stuff, but we've got there by going through a process. We don't just jump straight to engage.
Right.
We did the evaluation, we worked out where we're at, set the benchmark, started to get the small wins with the buy-in and get people moving in that direction, which led to some buyout, so that unify happened, and then the alignment to the goal and where we're going to head. But when it comes to engage, once we've got this engaged workforce, and Mark, you've seen this many times in companies where, once they're engaged, they can go back to an old strategy that didn't work when the workforce didn't care, and now all of a sudden they get results.
When it comes to getting results, there's really two areas that we saw really emerge from all the rest. And one has to do with the fact that they could just revert to the mean. They could just go back to the way things were operating in the past. When they start engaging with each other, they're going to start to learn about how they might have to reassign roles and swim lanes. I have seen projects that everybody violently agrees on, can't get it done for 2 months, and then finally you rearrange the seats and rearrange responsibilities, get the right people in the right seats on the bus, and in a weekend you can have traction. So I think this is one of the things we have to realize fundamentally about engagement. It's not perfect, it's not clean, it can be a little messy at the edges. That's why we need trust, and we need the sense of safety. So we need to be able to say, okay, I'm going to send this person on a slightly different mission, or get something that's in alignment with their passion. I think the other thing is also being able to acknowledge failure, learn from it, and move quickly ahead. When you miss a 3-point shot, you don't stop there and say, no, why'd he miss that shot? Do you set up the
Some
next play?
companies do, though.
Yes, they do. Yeah, we want to set up for the next shot really quickly.
Absolutely.
And we want to fail fast and fail forward,
Yeah.
and be able to version really quickly. That's how great teams in sport or business play.
This is high performance, though.
Yes.
Low performance, it's easy because you can take months and weeks and everything, and it's okay.
It's interesting. You can hear them talk about winning and losing. On the small shots, winners talk about losing so often, you'd think they were losers.
Yeah.
Because they're taking the next shot, and they're passing it to him, and they're passing it to her, and they're keeping it active, they're continuing to iterate themselves to success. And I think people don't realize you don't have to be perfect to do something great.
That's it.
No individual and no team is perfect. What we need to do is just play really damn well together.
And that's what an engaged workforce does.
Exactly.
An engaged workforce will move fast,
Right.
will be nimble, will change, will adapt, will do all of these things. And I think that's one part of understanding that this step 5, the engaged step, isn't clean.
No.
It isn't simple. There will be adaptation, there will be change, there will be mistakes
You're
made.
not done.
But we're now growing as a high performance organization,
Right.
and ultimately we will get to the next chapter, which is grow. So welcome, thanks for listening on this chapter. Hopefully you've learned a bunch, put it into practice. We'll be back with the final chapter on grow and how you can do that in your organization.